somewhere in Toyota's overlanding development pipeline, buried under the same testing protocols reserved for vehicles that go into places most trucks are never rated for, sits a project that reportedly answers a very specific complaint from expedition buyers. They love the toughness of a 4x4 pickup platform, but they hate how much space it eats up on a trailhead. The name attached to the leaked internal documentation reads simply, Explorer Mini Camper 4x4. And if the early renderings and supplier chatter are accurate, this is not another oversized truck camper wearing a marketing label. It is reportedly built around a single obsession, fitting a genuinely livable, four-season shelter onto a footprint short enough to still thread through terrain a full-size motorhome would never survive. What looks, on paper, like an impossible compromise between comfort and capability might be exactly what Toyota is quietly trying to solve. Stick with this one, because what's tucked behind that rear hatch is the part almost nobody expected. Before we get there, if compact 4x4 campers are your thing, drop a comment with the platform you'd want to see broken down next, because a few of you are about to get exactly that. From the outside, the Explorer keeps a silhouette that's easy to underestimate. Overall length is reported to sit just under 19 feet, short enough to fit in a standard driveway, long enough to hide a surprising amount of usable volume behind the cab. The bodywork is described as a composite-aluminum hybrid shell, riveted rather than bonded in the load-bearing sections, chosen specifically to survive the flex a 4x4 chassis puts through a camper box on washboard roads. Wheel arches are pushed out wide over what's said to be a set of 33-inch all-terrain tires, giving the whole vehicle a planted, wide-track stance that reads more like a rally prep support truck than a family camper. Along the flanks, a raised rock slider line runs the full length of the rocker panels. Not a styling cue, but a functional detail meant to protect the underside on tight trail sections. Around back, the door swings out to reveal an integrated ladder folded flush into the bodywork, and a fold-down rear bumper step doubles as a small prep table once the vehicle is parked. Move to the roof, and the design gets more interesting. Reports point to a low-profile hardshell pop-top, not the accordion fabric kind that flaps in crosswinds, but a hinged composite lid that lifts less than 14 inches and still adds standing headroom inside. It's a detail that matters more than it sounds. Hardshell pop-tops usually cost buyers ground clearance or roof strength, and Toyota's engineers reportedly refuse to compromise on either. From the front, the fascia carries a deliberately understated grille treatment, a small integrated light bar, and a snorkel intake routed up the A-pillar. Functional, not decorative, according to people close to the build. Walk around to the side profile, and the proportions start to make more sense. The camper box sits noticeably lower than most truck-based builds, a design choice reportedly driven by a lowered center of gravity rather than a smaller water or battery capacity. The tanks are said to be tucked between the frame rails instead of stacked inside the box. A single awning rail runs above the door line, and a spare tire is mounted flush to the rear door rather than swung out on an external carrier, keeping the departure angle intact. From directly behind, the taillight cluster is set into recessed composite housings to protect it from brush strikes, and a fold-flat ladder doubles as a mounting point for a portable shower rinse, a small detail, but one that shows up repeatedly in the leaked build sheets. But the exterior is only there to set expectations. And what those expectations completely fail to prepare you for is what happens under the hood and further down the driveline. Under that fascia, the Explorer is said to run on Toyota's proven turbo diesel 4-cylinder, tuned in this application for low-end torque rather than outright horsepower. A choice that makes sense once you understand what this vehicle is actually built to do. Output figures haven't been officially confirmed, but supplier documentation points to somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 horsepower paired with over 350 pound-feet of torque, routed through a locking center differential and low-range transfer case as standard equipment, not an option box. Ground clearance is reported at 11.2 inches unladen, a genuinely rare number for anything built around a livable camper box, and one worth remembering because it comes back later. Approach and departure angles are said to land close to 34 and 28 degrees respectively, numbers that put this closer to a dedicated expedition truck than anything wearing a camper shell usually manages. Portal-style axle housings are rumored for the off-road package, which, if accurate, would explain how engineers protected that ground clearance without pushing the whole vehicle to a height that kills stability on a side hill. On pavement, the trade-off shows up exactly where you'd expect. This is not a quiet, refined highway cruiser, and Toyota doesn't appear to be pretending otherwise. Wind noise around the raised roofline and the taller sidewall tires is reportedly noticeable above 65 miles an hour, and that's the one honest compromise built into a vehicle otherwise engineered almost entirely around going where pavement ends. But everything discussed so far, the torque, the diff locks, the ground clearance, exists to set up a number nobody expected to see attached to something this size. And that number becomes a lot easier to understand once you step past the driver's seat and into the living space behind it. Step through the side door, and the math of that short exterior length stops making sense in the best possible way. The layout is arranged as a single flowing corridor rather than a series of separated boxes. A galley on the left as you enter, a fixed dinette said to convert into a second sleeping berth, and a full-width bed at the rear that drops down from the raised roof section once the hardshell top is lifted. Looking at this, it feels like stepping into a space built by people who measured every inch by how it actually gets used, not by how it photographs in a brochure. Cabinetry is reportedly finished in a matte-sealed birch ply, chosen over the usual glossy laminate because it doesn't scratch under repeated loading and unloading of gear. Overhead, a continuous skylight strip is said to run above the galley, letting daylight reach the counter without cutting into the limited wall storage below it. Here's the part almost nobody expects from a vehicle this size. The wet bath, tucked into a pocket behind the driver's seat, reportedly folds out to a usable shower stall in under 10 seconds, then collapses back into a footprint barely larger than a single kitchen cabinet. It's the kind of packaging trick usually reserved for vehicles twice this length. And the bedroom, once the roof is raised, is said to offer a genuinely flat queen-size sleeping surface, not the tapered, feet-narrowing shape most compact campers force buyers to accept. Now picture actually living in it for a week. Not a weekend test drive, not a dealership walkthrough, a full week, somewhere with no cell signal, running entirely on what's stored on board. That's the test this vehicle is reportedly designed around, and it's a test most compact campers quietly fail somewhere around day 3. That week-long test is where the Explorer's off-grid systems are supposed to earn their place on the spec sheet. Reports describe a 400-watt solar array mounted flush to the hardshell roof, feeding a 300-amp-hour lithium battery bank isolated from the starting circuit by a DC-DC charger. Freshwater capacity is said to sit around 22 gallons, modest compared to larger campers, but paired with a demand-based pump system engineers reportedly tuned to stretch that supply across several days of careful use. Here's the detail insiders keep pointing to, though. The water heater is rumored to run on waste engine heat during highway driving, topping off a small holding tank before the vehicle ever reaches camp, meaning a hot shower could be available within minutes of parking without running the onboard generator at all. If that detail holds up through production, it would be a genuinely unusual piece of engineering for a vehicle this compact. A digital control panel near the dinette is said to display battery state, water levels, and tank status, with an optional cellular relay for remote monitoring when the vehicle is left at a trailhead. There's one more detail worth pausing on. Sources close to the build claim the induction cooktop and the water pump are wired to a load management chip that automatically throttles non-essential draw whenever the battery bank drops below a set threshold, quietly protecting reserve capacity instead of leaving that math to the person camping. It's a small piece of software doing a job that, on most compact campers, gets left entirely to guesswork and a glance at a battery gauge. None of this is confirmed by Toyota directly. Most of what's circulating traces back to supplier leaks and forum sourcing, rather than an official spec sheet. But taken together, the pattern is consistent. Every off-grid system on this vehicle appears designed around extending time away from hookups, not just claiming a number for a brochure. And once you understand how far that self-sufficiency is meant to stretch, the number Toyota is reportedly attaching to all of it becomes a lot easier to make sense of. Pricing hasn't been officially announced, and anyone claiming an exact confirmed figure right now is guessing. What's circulating among people tracking the build points to a starting range somewhere between $145,000 and $165,000 depending on off-road package and interior trim. A number that, if accurate, would place the Explorer meaningfully below what buyers currently pay for a comparably equipped Earth Roamer, while reportedly matching or beating it on approach angle and ground clearance. That gap, if it holds at launch, is the whole story of who this vehicle is actually for. This isn't built for someone shopping for a weekend toy. It's reportedly aimed at the buyer who wants to disappear off the grid for real stretches of time. Solo travelers who need a rig small enough to handle alone, remote workers who can run a laptop off the solar bank from a trailhead with no service, retirees who've decided the towable trailer years are over, but the full-size motorhome years never really appealed to them either, and national park travelers who keep hitting access roads their current rig simply can't clear. If any of that sounds like your version of getting away, the platform, the off-grid setup, the pricing tier, subscribe. because Toyota's actual announcement is expected to land within the next development cycle, and this channel will be tracking every confirmed detail the moment it surfaces. So here's where all of it comes together. A vehicle short enough to fit a standard driveway, carrying 11.2 inches of ground clearance and portal-style axle protection, normally reserved for dedicated expedition trucks. Reportedly paired with a wading depth approaching 31 inches, a figure that, if confirmed, would put it ahead of nearly every production camper built on a comparable wheelbase. A wet bath that folds away in under 10 seconds. A queen bed that doesn't taper. A water heater rumored to run off waste engine heat before you've even set the parking brake. None of it reads like a compromise stacked on top of another compromise, which is usually what happens when a manufacturer tries to make something this small do this much. The verdict, based on everything currently circulating: if Toyota brings the Explorer to production close to what's leaked, it won't just be another entry in the crowded compact camper category. It'll be the vehicle that finally proves you don't have to trade freedom for real off-road capability. That's a remarkable claim for something this size, and right now it's still unconfirmed. But the pattern of details leaking out, consistent, specific, and increasingly hard to write off as speculation, suggests Toyota knows exactly what it's sitting on. So here's the challenge. If you had to pick just one detail from everything covered here: the wet bath, the ground clearance, the waste heat water heater, the pricing gap, which one would actually get you to put down a deposit? Drop it in the comments, because the next video breaks down one compact 4x4 platform that's already shipping right now. Fully confirmed specs and no speculation required. Subscribe so you don't miss it.